Disney sues DeSantis. And now we'll see how serious DeSantis really is. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is another declaration of truth from your host, Terry A. Hurlbut. Yesterday, the Walt Disney Company, or rather Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, filed suit against Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and several of his officials. Now, Governor DeSantis reasserted state authority over the lands on which Walt Disney World stands. So the company filed a lawsuit alleging retaliation and abridgment of freedom of speech. But in fact, the company might not have a legal leg to stand on. And on the other hand, the governor needs to play the winning hand that Bob Iger dealt him earlier this month. He could make this go away with a few words. So why hasn't he? Before I review for you the saga of the Reedy Creek Improvement District, how we got to this pass, what Disney thinks it can get a court to believe, and how DeSantis could snap his fingers and deal the coup de grace anytime he felt like it, I do want to shout out to the prime sponsor of this channel, which is Conservative News and Views. Link in the description. And be sure to check out the awesome CNAV Store. Scroll down near the bottom for that link. Lots of great merchandise there, especially this t-shirt that I've chosen for today, which shows the name Mickey in a stylized version of Walt Disney's printing script, and its reflection, which could read wicked, because that's what Disney has now become. One more thing. If you like what you're about to hear, you can like this video. You can also click the bell icon to get a notice every time I come out with a new one. In fact, you see the new icon, the heart shape with the US dollar sign in it? That's the super thanks icon. If you really want to keep these videos coming, click that and leave me a tip. Any currency will do, so long as it's legal tender. Now, the saga of the Reedy Creek Improvement District. You will recall that Walt Disney, the founder, negotiated the carving out of what became the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Walt Disney had a dream. Well, what would have been the first ever Agenda 21 city before anyone would even coin that term. He named it Experimental Prototypical Community of Tomorrow, EPCOT. In it, residents would own nothing, but all would have jobs. EPCOT would govern itself directly, and instead of answering to Orange and Osceola counties, it would answer to the Reedy Creek Improvement District. I have a link in the description to the EPCOT film that Walt Disney made to sell the concept. Walt Disney died, and the dream of a sustainable city died with him. But the Reedy Creek Improvement District did not die. Governor Charles Kirk would sign the enabling legislation into law. Thereafter, the company built 3 monster theme parks. The Magic Kingdom, that's a mirror of Disneyland in Anaheim, California, Disney MGM Studios, and EPCOT Center. Not a city at all, but like a continuing World's Fair. It featured a world showcase of national pavilions and a future world of pavilions showcasing technological projections in communications, marine biology, agriculture, energy, medicine. Disney World also featured 3 themed hotels and a residential hotel known as Disney Village. Reedy Creek Improvement District had nominal charge of emergency first responders services, including fire and police departments, but in fact, Reedy Creek Police Department is Walt Disney Company security, and likewise, Reedy Creek Fire Department is the Park Complex Private Fire Brigade. Everybody knows this, and everyone keeps his mouth shut so as not to rock the boat. Now, enter Governor Ron DeSantis. In 2022, he needed a signature issue to build conservative credentials for an eventual presidential campaign. Aside, yesterday, Florida's Senate took a concrete step toward amending Florida's Resign to Run law to exempt presidential and vice presidential candidates. Well, DeSantis found his issue in the campaigns by the LGBTQIA+ quote, community, unquote, to recruit small children into their movement through school curricula. So in March 2022, he signed the Parental Rights in Education Act, an anti-grooming bill. Disney chose to protest this bill, though technically the bill did not affect any of the company's entertainments. DeSantis' next rejoinder was to sign legislation revoking the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Now, at first, he planned to revert all lands back to their original counties of Orange and Osceola. Now, that would lead to a state of affairs that does have a precedent. Carowinds, a Cedar Fair theme park that has the North and South Carolina border running right through it. Compared to that, a county line running through Walt Disney World wouldn't create too many complications. But taxpayers in Orange and Osceola counties had visions of having to pay all of Reedy Creek's general obligation bonds. Accordingly, DeSantis backtracked, but he replaced the Reedy Creek Improvement District with a new Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. This new district would perform the same functions, but it would function as a direct arm of state government. So then, the Disney company pulled a fast one on DeSantis. They prevailed upon the outgoing Reedy Creek Improvement District Board, the members of which the company handpicked, to sign away full development autonomy to Disney in perpetuity. To cover itself against a charge of violating the rule against perpetuities, this board declared as follows, and I kid you not, quote, "This declaration shall continue in effect until 21 years after the death of the last survivor of the descendants of King Charles III, King of England, living as of the date of this declaration," close quote. His Majesty King Charles Philip Arthur George Mountbatten Windsor will take his crown next month. The incoming SIFTOD board discovered the ruse and reported it to DeSantis, who reacted in sheer fury, or so it would appear. Whether he is sincere or not, Reedy Creek made itself his perfect target. DeSantis ordered an immediate criminal investigation, the outcome of which I have not yet seen. To Florida's Chief Inspector General, DeSantis wrote, and again I quote, "These collusive and self-dealing arrangements aim to nullify the recently passed legislation, undercut Florida's legislative process, and defy the will of Floridians," unquote, Ron DeSantis. Shortly thereafter, CEO Bob Iger held an earnings call, and in it, he made this clear admission. Now listen to this. Quote, "The company took a position on pending Florida legislation, and while the company might have not handled the position it took very well, the company has a right to freedom of speech just as individuals do," close quote. And then later he says, quote, "The governor got very angry with the position Disney took and then decided to retaliate against us, including the naming of a new board to oversee the property and the business. In effect, he sought to punish the company for the exercise of a constitutional right," unquote, Bob Iger. And when he said that, Bob Iger admitted that Reedy Creek was a glove and Disney the hand inside the glove. Governor DeSantis could not fail to notice. But before I tell you what he did about it, I want to shout out to a sponsor who can really help you through the economic storms to come. That sponsor is oursilverlines.com. Do you feel like you're working harder for your money just to get by? You are not alone. The fluctuating economy, employment issues, and unexpected changes in life have left many families struggling over the past few years. Collecting gold and silver can help shield you against many of these challenges. But if you're like me, many years ago, you don't know where or how to start. Our Silver Alliance helps by connecting you with thousands of members who are learning the secrets to creating and protecting true wealth by collecting precious metals. Whether you just want to collect rare and unique coins or take advantage of the business opportunities this company provides, either way, They can help you learn to live an exceptional life. Visit oursilverlines.com to learn how you can build a legacy for your future. Yesterday, the new CNAV board voted to rescind all agreements the old board had made with Disney. Within minutes, Disney Parks and Resorts sued the state, or sued all these officials, in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida. Fox Business is hosting the text of the complaint, and I have that link in the description. They did some of the reportage I'm going to use. CNN Politics did the rest. The company name, Governor DeSantis, the CNAV board, and Florida Department of Economic Opportunity Acting Secretary Meredith Ivey, among others, as defendants. They seek injunctive relief to revalidate the old Reedy Creek Board's declaration. The company alleges a targeted campaign of government retaliation orchestrated at every step by Governor DeSantis as punishment for Disney's protected speech. This retaliation, again I quote, now threatens Disney's business operations, jeopardizes its economic future in the region, and violates its constitutional rights, close quote. Disney goes further, quote, Disney finds itself in this regrettable position because it expressed a viewpoint the governor and his allies did not like. Disney wishes that things could have been resolved in a different way, but Disney also knows that it is fortunate to have the resources to take a stand against the state's retaliation. A stand smaller businesses and individuals might not be able to take when the state comes after them for expressing their own views. In America, the government cannot punish you for speaking your mind, close quote. But the issue has nothing to do with the anti-grooming bill or the company's opposition to it. Rather, the issue is whether Reedy Creek was ever a public entity separate and apart from Disney. Or not. And if not, then Disney is guilty of fraud. I quote Martin Garcia, the chairman of the new board, quote, Disney picked the fight with this board. We were not looking out for a fight. Bottom line, what our lawyers have told us is factually and legally what they created is an absolute legal mess. It will not work, unquote Martin Garcia. The company can only point to some admittedly inflammatory rhetoric from DeSantis. He suggested earlier this month that perhaps Florida should lay and collect taxes on the hotels within the park complex, levy and collect tolls on the roads in and out of the park, and develop the land surrounding the parks in ways the company might not like. He even suggested building a state prison next to the park, but I don't take that seriously because I think even Governor DeSantis knows that he cannot mean that seriously. That kind of a location like that would violate every concept of prison security. The governor's communications director shot back with this, quote, we are unaware of any legal right that a company has to operate its own government or maintain special privileges not held by other businesses in the state. This lawsuit is yet another unfortunate example of their hope to undermine the will of the Florida voters and operate outside the bounds of the law, close quote. And now we come to the $1,024,000 question. Is DeSantis sincere? That is the most puzzling aspect of this case. DeSantis should be able to invalidate even this lawsuit with a few choice words. Reedy Creek has issued general obligation bonds, $1 billion worth, on the assumption that it is a public entity. If instead it has been the glove covering Disney the hand, then those bonds are fraudulent. The Attorney General and Solicitor General could file to invalidate the bonds and make them due and payable immediately. In fact, Disney found cause to assure bondholders about whether they would see their money back. Nevertheless, Yahoo News is out there saying the dissolution of Reedy Creek would make the bonds payable by Florida taxpayers. Influencers who are familiar with special district bonds like these flatly disagree. They do, however, admit that if DeSantis took that route, the game would play out in the Florida and United States Supreme Courts. Laura Loomer, for one, does not find him sincere at all. I have a link in the description to her tweet. She says, quote, "Thanks to Governor Ron DeSantis' bloviation and his fake war with Disney for the sake of generating fodder for his 2024 presidential campaign, Florida taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill for DeSantis' legal fees. Now that Disney is suing him," unquote, Laura Loomer. Now, see here. Laura Loomer has reason to resent Ron DeSantis. He could and should have helped her out when Daniel Webster, a man totally unworthy of the famous name he bears, very likely, as I suspect, stole her primary from her in District 11. He is now sitting in the House of Representatives as the Republicans' answer to John Fetterman. And she has plenty of other grievances. Things I certainly would have done differently in DeSantis' place, but DeSantis failed to do, and shame on him for that failure. And I don't think she even knows about that angle with fraudulent general obligation bonds, or she would have said something. Anyway, it's in the hands of the one whom Thomas Jefferson called the supreme judge of the world. Time will now tell. Links in the description of the article, to Walt Disney's EPCOT film, to the lawsuit, to Laura Loomer's tweet, to my Declarations of Truth Twitter account, and to Conservative News and Views. I've also left links to the awesome CNAV Store and on silverlines.com, as I also mentioned. You know already about how to like a video, turn on notifications, and leave a tip. On the end screen, I'm going to leave a subscribe link to my channel, links to my Disney playlist, to the EPCOT film, and to a video by Overlord DVD about this lawsuit, one that he released yesterday. This is Terry A. Hurlbut delivering another declaration of truth and reminding you to let the truth set you free.